Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Nothing too much. Thank you guys for taking the time to do this interview.
Yeah, thank you for having us on.
Oh, not a problem. Well, of course, we're
Yes.
here to talk about the debut album from your guys' band, The Mantle. So I guess the first question is, how did this band come about?
So let's see. I don't know who should even. Well, we kind of started when Jake and I met, and I don't know if you can see us right now, but Jake is. We're sitting here. Yeah. Jake's here too. Say hi, Jake.
Hey.
Yeah. So Jake and I met in my freshman year of college in New York, and Jake was a sophomore at NYU. I was at Columbia, and we had a friend, a guy on my floor in my dorm building, and he knew Jake from San Diego, where he grew up, and knew that he was into metal, and that I was looking for people to play with in the city. And it sort of began there, but we didn't. It kind of just developed slowly over the years, and then by the time college ended, we're both graduated now, and I'm about a year and a half out. Jake's 2.5 years out. I started recording the debut album basically right after college, and when that finished, the band really came together. But it was kind of in the making for 5 or so years.
Yeah, I think Sea Breather was one of the second songs.
Yeah.
And that song, we had played it together 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's really an album in the making, I think, for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see that it, after all that time, that it can come into full fruition to become a full band and a full album now, because I think it was definitely worth all the time, because it is a spectacular album.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks.
With that, what made you want to go into the instrumental route when it comes to metal?
Well, it wasn't so much a choice, at least for me, as just a necessity, because I don't sing. Jake actually has a great metal growl voice, or he did in high school. And the thing is, the name The Mantle was Jake's band in high school, totally different band, and they played in California. They even went on tour.
We still have our old MySpace stuff.
So yeah, Jake's MySpace for The Mantle, you can find it. It's The Mantle
I think it's
Official.
The Mantle Official, yeah, MySpace.com.
And it's really awesome, melodic tech death stuff. And
Yeah, it's kind of like a mix of Arsis and I was 16 at the time, so it was more of, it's not that great. but my biggest influence back then was Arsis. They were one of my high school bands growing up.
And I love Arsis too. But yeah, so I don't know. I guess Jake never had the inclination to sing or growl over this music, and we kind of just made it all about the guitar from the get-go.
And it's also pretty difficult to form a band, a full band here in New York, because there's just not any space and everything's super expensive.
That's true.
So you can't really just get together in your basement and just play with people. You really have to have a plan and know what you're doing.
That's true.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, and I think you guys did go about it in the right way, because I really love that guitar melodic-filled instrumental. I mean, rather than just showing off all the skills that you have, it's actual music being played.
Yeah, we like to think so. Yeah, we're not sure what we're going to do with vocals in the future. We actually may, for the second album or the third album, we don't really have plans for the next album yet, but we're planning on making one at some point, and we may have vocals in the future. But yeah, that's how it's worked out for now.
So, besides me reaching out to you guys and loving the album, what has the reception been for the debut so far?
It's been really, really good. I mean, we've had a surprising amount of press. I had a good friend who was helping me, used to work for Relapse Records, actually, and he basically had the whole Relapse Records contact list, 4,000, 5,000 people, and it also is really good at preparing press kits and all that stuff, which I knew nothing about to begin with. And so he helped me get it out to a ton of people, and also knew a lot of these people personally. So we got written up on Metal Sucks, Blabbermouth, even on Nerdist, which isn't even a music website really, and it got us a pretty good amount of exposure there. But more importantly, I don't know, there was like some guy posted about it on the Dream Theater forums, and everyone has been really
it's
liking
funny.
it.
You can track it from like the Bandcamp stats.
Yeah.
You can see where people are coming from, and like it's been everywhere. Like it's been from. It was on some random Japanese forum somewhere, and I think it was on the Dream Theater forums. Like stuff that seeing it on Blabbermouth, that was the coolest thing, because like that's something that I had like read as a kid.
Yeah, me too.
Like, that's what I used for my metal news, and then seeing us there was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's been good. I mean, obviously, it's been real. Everything's been reasonable. Like we don't think that we're gonna just blow up out of nowhere. But as far as a new band and new project, it's been a really good response.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that too, because with instrumental music, it can go so different. I mean, some people won't even give it a chance because it's instrumental, and sometimes they'll be like Animals as Leaders, where it becomes one of the biggest in their genre. And I'm glad to see that the response is going favorably, because it is great stuff that deserves that kind of coverage.
Yeah, thank you. I think the biggest thing that we've seen is that people seem to be they're finding that it's something sort of new, and that there is a lot of musicality in it, and that was what I was hoping people would get from it, that it's like kind of a new take on progressive metal, that it's not overly shreddy, it's not overly sort of genty.
It still like has those like aspects to it, but I think there's more heart to it.
Yeah, we're all about the heart.
Well, it's definitely true when you listen to the music, because that always reaches out to me more than just music that literally just shows off everything you can do on guitar, because if that's an entire album, you're not going to be able to make it all the way through without getting bored. But when you actually write some music behind it, when you actually write some harmonies and melodies, and then once in a while be able to show off those really kind of cool guitar fills or solos or whatever the case is, it makes them stand out that much more.
Yeah, I totally agree, and happy. And also, Jake and I work very well together, and we kind of have the same idea on a lot of stuff, and so we both approach it from the same way. I think just making, I don't know, it's sort of like the shredding and all that is just a tool for making better music, not the point of the music.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, whether you get vocals or not, or make it a full-fledged band at some point, that would always be the case with the band, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And we're, vocals, the reason it's such a question right now is because we're not even sure if it's going to work musically necessarily. Like I know that we both love vocals and bands with vocals. Like all of my favorite bands, basically, besides maybe Animals Leaders, are have amazing singers or growlers or something, and so I would love to experiment with it, but if it doesn't work musically, then I guess we'll probably stay instrumental. But we don't even know.
Yeah, it never hurts to try, but it's definitely okay to be able to, as long as you're wanting to write that music, keep going with the music that you want to make.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to sell out, right, Jake?
I don't know. I mean, we're an indie rock band.
It depends on the number, I guess. Probably for like 10 grand, maybe. 10, 20, 25 grand, I'd sell out.
Yeah, I can imagine now the next album would just be nothing but 4/4 AC/DC beats, maybe just a little flange guitar solo or something like that, but just one on the album, just one.
Yes, exactly. We need it to be produced by Rick Rubin. Yeah.
Actually, I lived in the dorm room that Rick Rubin is in Weinstein.
Wait, really?
Yeah, NYU.
Wow, that's awesome.
That is
I had no idea.
So yeah, I have contact with Rick Rubin. That'll be our next album.
You have the end.
Yeah.
It all comes full circle if you can get Rick Rubin on production skills.
Yeah, we'll see if he's done with Kanye. The Mantle will be next.
So, of course, being relatively young when it comes to being in a band, and of course getting known as well, what were your first, how did you first discover metal?
Well, let's see. I mean, Jake had the band going. I really had nothing in high school beyond like a few performances talent show type stuff, and I was in like jazz band. But Jake was more Jake was doing what I wish I did in high school. But I did get into metal at an early age too, and I think Jake probably also got into metal earlier than I did, but I was about 8th grade. I was probably 12 or 13, and I was already into like Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne, it's like AC/DC, Green Day, that kind of stuff was my favorite stuff when I was about 9.
Yeah, Green Day's awesome.
Green Day can be awesome. But then I heard Megadeth. A friend showed me, it was like a friend of a friend, that we started hanging out at this guy's house playing World of Warcraft, actually. And he just started getting into metal. He got into it from like this other kid in Malibu, where I grew up, which is a really small community. So I'm lucky that I even got introduced to metal. Luckily for my friend Alec, who showed me Megadeth and Children of Bodom. And then that's kind of what inspired me to start practicing a lot. And it was really more in high school for me about like the practice time that I got rather than being in a band, which has its pluses and minuses. But yeah, Jake, how did you get into metal?
Well, so like I had like the most like ridiculous introduction to metal in that like I started with really like brutal death metal stuff, and then slowly like went away from that and into more like proggy stuff. But really like some of my first, actually I was going through my old like Ultimate Metal forum account and found posts from when I was like 13 or 14 where I was talking about how I like gone to a garage sale and bought a bunch of old Bathory albums. And like one of my favorite Bathory songs is Die in Fire, which it's like for a 13-year-old to listen to that stuff. I don't know, people must have thought I was a little bit fucked up or something. And then I like went to my first Suffocation concert when I was 14. I think it was the Summer Slaughter tour with KROCKS. And and then I sort of started discovering like, you know, some genty bands later on, and now I'm just really into, you know, Green Day, Kanye.
He's not.
Yeah, so.
But Sean is your favorite.
It's kind of like I'm like the Benjamin Button of metal.
Wow.
Oh, that's great. But jokes aside, you know, obviously some great inspirations getting into metal. But what are you guys listening to now?
It's funny. Like I'm finding myself kind of a little bit bored right now, and listening to a lot of stuff that I grew up listening to. And I'm not like blaming metal for that. I think it's just that I sort of am being nostalgic at the moment and listening to a lot of like Opeth. And like Winter Sun, who was one of my favorite bands, and Children of Bodom. I've been listening to them recently in like the last couple of weeks, like for the first time in years. But I have been trying to go on Bandcamp and get a bunch of independent albums. Let's see. I guess also just some interesting guitar stuff. There's this like Japanese guitarist named Ichika Mo, and he does like really cool, it's almost like Chon but on a solo guitar. So I've been trying to check out more stuff, but besides like more independent music, I've been really going back to the classics recently.
I think actually this is why I've been listening to a lot of like Japanese rock recently, which is really, really good and also really, really hard to find in the US because I think that they just release albums in Japan and don't really do it streaming services or anything, so it's just really hard to find some of this stuff. Really, they only release like singles on Spotify. But I think that there's like this really big like Japanese math rock movement right now that's really, really good. It sounds a lot like Chon, but a lot of them have vocals, and it's actually a little bit more like the time signatures are insane. Like sometimes it just sounds like they're randomly playing notes, and that gets a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like the more you know, straightforward ones are really, really good. And I think some of that stuff will break into the US at some point.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say, I actually listened to Dillinger's Escape Plan for like the first time in my life about a month ago. So that's new for me.
Oh, that's great. And it's so cool to see like all the different sides of the musical personality going on there. I mean, from the Japanese math rock. I mean, I'm a huge fan of that too. I mean, I love bands like Boris and Maximum the Hormone and all those really cool bands. And and of course going back to like Opeth, my one of my first two prog bands I ever discovered, and Children of Bodom. It's great to see all those influences, but not ripping them off when it comes into your own playing, but using them just as inspirations to make you want to create your own music.
Yeah. I think it's hard to pinpoint. I'm glad that we can't really like say, oh, our music is 1/3 Children of Bodom, 1/5 Animals as Leaders. But yeah, for me, the bands that I know that seep into the music a lot for me are like Between the Buried and Me, definitely Periphery to some extent, Animals as Leaders, some like a bunch of melodic death metal from Scandinavia, like I guess Sean, and like post-rock, post-metal stuff, and some other stuff like jazz. And I do love jazz, actually. I'm kind of getting more into jazz, like bebop and, like John Coltrane and Miles Davis, like really actually listening to that music for, I feel like, the first time ever, because I've always heard it, but never really appreciated it. So, yeah, a lot of influences.
Yeah, and I've been kind of the same way, too, especially happened in high school. Like, once I really discovered metal, I also wanted to reach out and look for other areas of music as well. Like, I was also in jazz band in my school as well, so I went back and I appreciated, like, Coltrane and all those great, like, 20s to 40s jazz music where, like, it really started to get experimental and they tried new things, and it really opens up your mind to what's out there.
Yeah, and I actually also am a huge fan of Django Reinhardt and gypsy jazz as well, which is more simple but really fun. It's like a very accessible type of jazz, but yeah, it's all pretty good.
So with already having all these songs out for the debut, were there any other songs that were possibly going to make it on the debut that might see the light of day later?
That's possible, actually. I have a bunch of song ideas that I've kind of accumulated over the years, and little, kind of mostly incomplete demos of things. Most of those, honestly, will probably never see the light of day. Probably shouldn't, but there are some ideas, actually, that I'll probably end up going back to, maybe a song in a decade that I wrote, like, even 3 or 4 years ago. For sure, but we didn't have a lot of tracks that were complete that didn't make the album. Like, I think it's sort of like when I put the energy in to finish a song, I really want to release it, because for me, at least the way I've written songs for most of my life, like I won't even continue with a song if I don't really like it already. So when I complete a song, put in all that effort, at least up until now, I usually want to release it.
I don't understand how people can do half of a song and like produce most of it and then just like throw it away.
Or maybe we're just not good enough at writing songs.
Maybe.
Well, it's funny. I was just doing an interview earlier today where we were discussing that about like keeping riffs that you already have, because you never know when you're going to use them again. And I was talking to Steve from a 80s band called Trickster, who has a new supergroup called Tokyo Motor Fist. And he had all of these songs from the 80s that he never had the chance to use with his previous band that he's gotten to use now. And it's great to see, like, even like 20, 30 years later, that as long as you keep those riffs, I mean, there can still be some inspiration going on.
Yeah, we gotta keep the riffs. I feel like I usually record everything when me and Jake jam, and even in the last, like, we've sort of, with school and everything, only in the last year or so, I guess, have we gotten a lot of like consistent time to jam together. Otherwise, it was just sort of on and off throughout school. But yeah, we come up with a lot of stuff together, and Jake, you always forget what you play, and I always love what you play. So I actually have to record everything on the voice memos app on my iPhone, and if I didn't have that, I would forget like 90% of what I would otherwise come up with.
Oh, very cool. So what about your guitar setups? How did you approach that for the debut album?
For the debut album, it was just purely the Axe effects. That was the entire tone was the Axe effects 2, which is amazing. And I've had a handful of tones that I've stuck to, and haven't really changed much over the years. Even though like the Axe effects is essentially limitless in the tones you can create, I pretty much stick to 1 or 2. And so basically used the same tone and mixed it slightly differently for most of the album. The guitar that I mainly used was a Demon S 7-string that I got built about 5 years ago. And Demon S is an incredible company. If you don't know, it's this lutherie in England, basically run by this one guy, Dylan Humphreys. And he's not only a guitar maker, but essentially a Renaissance style master painter, and basically can do the same things with inlays and paint jobs on the guitars. I didn't get anything too crazy done, but I have the Hammer of Thor in the middle of my fretboard.
Nice.
And so essentially it was that guitar mostly into the Axe effects, into a Focusrite audio interface, and I recorded in Logic Pro 10, and yeah, just used a MacBook Pro, and that was my setup, and it worked pretty well. There was a few things I would change next time, including reamping the guitars, which I didn't know much about, but now I do. That I didn't take any DI signals for any of the recording, which is kind of dangerous, because if you record something and you realize the tone doesn't work later, then you're stuck with the tone. But if you're using a digital setup or not, you should always take DI signals from the guitar, because you could later change the tone by running it through a different amp setup and get a totally different, possibly better sound. And so I've learned a lot about production and that sort of thing after the album was done. But luckily it turned out pretty well, even with my lack of knowledge. And so Jake didn't record much on the album, but he recorded on Technomancer. And he also used the Axe effects, and I think he used your Ibanez, the 8-string RG, and a Mayonnaise 6-string.
Yeah, the Pain of Salvation hair model.
Very nice. Yeah, I mean, that's some amazing setups that you guys got, and honestly, I really appreciate that kind of style of production, because that kind of goes back to like that jazz elements where you weren't able to just like do cut and paste recording in a sense. You had to like be able to get it just done one time around. And when it comes to tones like that, I mean, you got to make sure that it's the tone that you're looking for. And,
well, actually, the album was recorded in a pretty cut and paste way. It was recorded piece by piece, actually. But in the future, we'd like to do more of like a live setup. But for necessity, this album was recorded because I essentially did it in my bedroom, and I didn't have and the drums are about half programmed, half played by a guy named Brian Simmons Newt, who recorded the drums for Dragons in the Purple Sky, Sea Breather, and A Sense of Scale on an electronic kit like halfway across the country. So that's how it was done, actually.
Oh yeah, I meant more of like with the tone wise, not being able to change that and just having that just the one take.
Sure.
Yeah, I meant more of that than the cut and paste, because it's like when you're able to do that from home, it makes things so much simpler when. It's like when you don't have the recording money or the space, it's like it's nice to be able to go cut and paste and make it as perfect as possible.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty awesome to be able to work with like Brian playing those drums. Like the songs that he did play on, I just it's probably also a bit of me being nitpicky on my own drum programming and stuff, but I just think his drums sound so much better. And we were able to do it across the country.
So, with his style of drumming on the songs that he does appear on, did you give him any tips of what you were looking for in the song, or did you just let him have full range of what to do?
Well, actually, I pretty much programmed all of the drums beforehand and made demos over the years. Not even really intentionally making demos for the album necessarily, but I was just recording these songs over the years, and so I pretty much programmed a full song for all those songs that he played on. So he had a really good reference of the parts, but he added a few parts that I would never think of, and that made the songs way better.
Oh, any examples of that, like of his touch?
Yes. So let's see. I in a sense of scale, where he definitely did the most, I would say, to change the song in a good way. There's like right after the guitar solo, at like 8.5, 9 minutes into the song, he has this really awesome section where I just had like a really basic drum beat. It's like a 6/4 section where it's like and he added this drum fill sort of like this extended like drum fill thing that just built up this energy, and like it just kind of blew my mind when I heard it. Like wow, this is what a real drummer actually thinks like. Like I could never do that completely on my own, which is why I realized I'll do anything I can in the future not to rely on my own drum programming, because I know the music will be way better if I can get a real drummer to play the parts, which we now have. He couldn't make it to do this interview, but it's a guy named Asher Bank who joined the band a few months ago, and he's a really great drummer.
Yeah, that's the great thing. I mean, like, when you're writing your own music and when you're not a drummer working on your own drum samples or drum beats for your demos, it always helps to have, like, that skeleton of an idea, but when you find the right drummer to be able to add their own spin to it, it's so great. And it works the same way with me, too. Like, anytime that I think of any guitar or bass parts, it's always good to go find a guitarist or a bassist to add on to my own ideas, and it's just that branch of creativity that opens up things so much more.
Yeah, so obviously you're a drummer.
Yeah.
And do you write a lot of music?
I've written a lot of different drum stuff over the years. Nothing I've been able to get to full fruition of full recordings or anything, but guitar and bass-wise, I haven't really been able to write anything out yet, but for drums, I've been able to come up with a lot of different stuff for different bands, but through trials and tribulations, not necessarily stuff that's out there yet.
That's cool. Wait, do you use a guitar modeler at all? Like, I know Anna Sastry.
Yeah.
You know him?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's right, actually where I got the idea from, was like at least getting the ideas of like writing guitar along with that. I mean, not necessarily in the same style that he does, but just like getting ideas of like melodies and harmonies I can't necessarily do on guitar or bass.
Right. Didn't he use I think he used a guitar like modeling plugin for an entire album, or was that? I think he did. Yeah. Or he used it in the past for a lot of videos and stuff. And it sounds pretty good. Like I always thought a drum machine was sort of the only, like drums maybe were the only instrument you could replace with a plug-in, but turns out that guitar and probably, I think vocals may be the only one that you can't replace.
Yeah, they've got some like Japanese vocalizers now.
Oh my god.
that go on tour, and it's just like a guy singing.
No way.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, we're not too far away from that hitting America.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, guys. It was fantastic being able to talk to you about everything that's going on with the Mantle, being able to promote the self-titled debut, which of course is available now, and I hope everybody will check it out because it's an amazing album, and definitely for anyone that enjoys metal or instrumental music, I think they'll really find something to really appreciate about it. Before we're done, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I haven't brought up yet?
I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, you can find the album on Bandcamp is our main site. It's the mantleband.bandcamp.com, and you can also you can find it on every streaming service. And yeah, that's
thanks for having us on, man.
Pretty much it. Yeah, thanks a lot for having us.